and he didn't allow the rocket to land where it was supposed to, then loy havi hanocha. It's not considered a hanocha to say it's not considered like the thrower made the hanocha. The loy noch mikoyach hazorek. It didn't land from the koyach hazorek. It landed from somebody else. So therefore, the thrower should be potter. Oidilma ke'adam echadami. It's like one person. The fact of the matter is he did an akira and he did a hanocha. Chayiv, he should be chayiv. It shouldn't be like two people did it, and it should not be potter. That's the first shot, and I believe that's the same shot that we saw in Rashi. But for Rachar is Ibcha, the Rachar is Goyich Punt Verkehrt. Do you say Kishnei B'nei Adam Dami V'chayiv? If it's considered like two people, like two separate koiches, then in fact you will be chayiv. The Amar Le'il, we said before, Amad B'mkoymai V'kibel, if it landed exactly where it was supposed to in your hand, chayiv, then the thrower is chayiv. V'hachanami, and so too over here, when you did both actions, both the throwing and the catching, ki kiblahu atzmai, if he himself caught it, v'loy chatfa mehi luchai, and he didn't snatch it out of its normal trajectory, l'chayiv, he'll be chayiv. The ha is avid machshavosai, because his machshava was done. Or maybe you say, ka'odom echadam, you potter, he is like one person, and that won't make you chayiv, like Rashi learned. Rather, that'll make you potter. Why? If you're tossing the ball from your right hand to your left hand, even if it's 4 amos apart in Shusharabim, it doesn't matter. It's not really going anywhere. Even if you were maverit, if you tossed it with your right hand and caught it with your left hand, you would be potter. So we have two different ways to learn the shaila, and they're polar opposites.
How about if as you're passing the ball, you throw from the right to the left?
So volleyball, but the ball never lands.
That's a very good shaila, and that's going to be the next shaila. And when I say the next shaila, I mean it's going to be sometime today. That's going to have to do with the shaila of an azay oimer mahalas chaylet. Each step could be a new akira for Zichalai, and we'll see how that works. Amr Ab Avin, Amr Ab Yochanan. I think you must have capture your first rodeo, because that's the problem. You asked the question exactly as the Gemara is introducing it. Oh, I can see that. I see that it's well worked in. That's a good sign. Okay. That's why I always borrow Gemaras, because I don't want people to see what my Gemara looks like. And I open it up. I don't want to start cracking the noise. Amr Ab Avin, Amr Ab Yochanan. Hichnis Yodai l'soy chatz chaveirei v'kibel me'gesham. So you were standing in Rosh Hashanah, and you stuck your hand into Rosh Hashanah, and you caught rain in your hand. And then you took the little rain that you caught in your hand, you pulled it back out, you pulled your elbow, and you pulled it to yourself. Chayiv, you're going to be chayiv. That seems like a very simple statement, but the Gemara is going to have a lot of problems with this halacha. Maskav observer. I don't understand. In our Mishnah, the Oni stuck his hand into the Rishus HaYachid. The Balabayis put something into the Oni's hand, and then the Oni pulls it out. The halacha is the Oni's potter. Why? Because he didn't make the Akira. The Balabayis made the Akira into Rishus HaYachid and put it into the Oni's hand. So why should this be any different? Mali hitina chaverei. What's the difference in our Mishnah's case, where his friend made the Akira and put it into his hand, where we say he's potter, Mali hitina shemayim. So why is it any difference if he put his hand in Rishus HaYachid and shemayim, the Rebbeinu Shalom made it rain into his hand? He didn't do the Akira. So why does Reb Avin say? Why does Reb Avin in the name of Rabbi Yechon say that he's chayiv? In fact, he should be potter because he didn't make the Akira. Zokrachi Mali Tina Chaverei to potter like Tana the Masnisan, where our Tana Paters the Katani Oishan Nosan Laslecha Vahoitzi Shneim Paturin, which is the case of our Mishnah. And why do you say Rabbi Yechanan that he should be chayiv? Iu loy kaver Akira. He didn't do an Akira. Now for the Gemara, you're right. Loy tem akibel. It doesn't just mean that he stuck his hand out into the rishus of his neighbor and let rain fall into it naturally. Because in fact he would be potter just like our Mishnah. Elo, our question is kolat. What he did is there was water somewhere on the surface, and he swept it in. He swept it into his hand. That's a perfect word. I didn't think of the word. Swept. That's perfect. Zok to Gemara, Eloitem Akimel, which is Pashat Yodai V'Yordal L'Soichet Lo Avod Mai. So don't just say he stood up a goylem and water fell into his hand. Elema Kolat, he wiped it into his hand, he swept it into his hand. Hash Jasol Kadaitach, exactly where did he sweep it from? Kishahoyak Hiluach Yored, while it was running down, Hika B'Yodai Achas, the Kibla B'Chavet Kovet Lekira. So I'm just imagining it's raining in my hand, and I sort of wipe off one hand into the other hand. So I'm literally placing water into my hand. So I'm doing a physical action, and therefore I am making an akira. In fact, Gemara, how could that be? The akira has to be, the object has to be sitting in a makam dalet al dalet. It's only on his hand, and that's not good. That's not good. That's not considered a good akira. Velekan you don't have. So for some reason the Gemara doesn't say here, like we learned earlier, that everyone's hand is considered a dalet al dalet. Right. I'm going to have to take a step back. What I'm asking, what I think what is, what does Rashi say? The kiluch was falling down. So I don't know where it was falling. Maybe it was running down a wall. It was not on a makam dalet dalet. He could be the achas the kibla b'chaverta. He pushed it into his hand. So if it was running down the wall, it was not sitting on the makam dalet. I'm being choshev from what I said a moment ago. A moment ago I said that it fell to one hand and he wiped it from one hand to the other hand. We already established that a hand is considered a makam choshev and it's like a makam dalet dalet. So.
Back. You can't wipe from one hand to another. Put it into another hand.
Well, if I want here, what can I do this?
Into another hand?
Yeah, into water here. Look at this.
Into another hand?
Yeah.
You'll live three hands.
Yeah, two hands. Watch. There's water in this hand, and I go like this. I did it. But that can't be what it means, because then, when it was in my first hand, in fact, it was in a makam dalet dalet. Right, so it must be it was on the wall or something, and that's how I did it. So it never started off. It was never munach on a makam dalet al dalet. V'abinakir me'al gabi makam dalet v'leka. Omar Mcgillvray Huna. The teretz is kogoin shekolat me'al gabi akoisel. It was on the koisel. It was on the wall, but was a dalet al dalet. In fact, the more al gabi akoisel nami v'holoi nach. That's not called that it was munach somewhere. Because the wall itself doesn't have a base kibble. The wall is just running down. So there was never hanacha. So it had to have started off from some type of stationary place, and it never did. I'm still uneasy about this first pshat. What does the Art Scroll say? Elakolat. How did he describe? Gathered from where? From where? It's like Purim. We collected. What? From one hand to the next? So if he's collecting it from one hand to the other hand, is he arguing, does he not hold that a hand is a davar choshev? You mean so it never landed in his hand? He
swatted falling rainwater.
Right. So it was never knock in his hand. He was just whipping it out of the air. Okay. But it's not starting from a mukam dalet dalet. Okay. Zok to Gemara. Speaking where it's on the koisel. If it's on the koisel, it still was never landed anywhere because it's only going to run down to the bottom. We're talking about not a wall that's perfectly vertical, but a wall that's on an incline. Speaking about water that's on the incline, so that the water flowing down an incline, at this point in the Gemara says that's called a place where it was noch from, and then you swept it into your hand, and you made a proper akira from a proper mokim where it was munach. You're quoting this Rava who says that by a koshel meshubah, by an inclined wall, when something's on it, that's considered noch. Where did Rava say this? Aharitnan on the following halacha that we're going to learn. Why did you say that he actually caught an amount of water in his hand? and pour it into another hand. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe I guess that's not shchir to do. If he has it in one hand, why is he pushing it into the other hand for? Like what for? Maybe because it's not shchir. All the other cases we're going to learn are all very shchir. All the cases that we're going to learn. Hoya kair b'sefer. So a person is sitting on an iskupa. What is an iskupa? So let's first see what a sefer is. Now that we just learned the Megillah, we have a more realistic understanding of what it's like to learn out of a Torah scroll. So kair b'sefer, kol svarim shalem asum k'Megillah. All the svarim in those days were written on scrolls in those days. So you're learning from a scroll, and oops, you one half of the scroll you dropped. So you're holding on to the Vahi b'meach hashverish, and the Dover Shalom Chazayai is down the street, right? So the question is, with this galgal hasefer miyadai, and the sefer fell out of his hand. What he's allowed to do, he's allowed to roll it back. So let's imagine he's in one rishus. We'll see what he's in. Let's say he's in the rishus hayachid, and the other half goes and falls into the rishus harabim. So we have to think about the different moving parts, and Rashi will clarify. There's a shtickle like here. There's not a hanocha. I mean, I'm still holding on to it. So it never really went away. So where is this? The shaila is where exactly is this chayvus? It's halfway in rishus hayachid, halfway in rishus harabim. And is it? Are we talking about going from a rishus hayachid to rishus harabim, which if it actually did go, that would be a deraisa? So Rashi can tell us we're not speaking about a case where there's a potential deraisa. It's only speaking about a case where there's a potential derabanan. So let's see Rashi. Go to Yetzlai. Ubeperach basur the Ervin. At the end of the Ervin, mukim law. The Gemara explains that the case is biskupas karmelis. So he's sort of on the stoop of a karmelis, meaning he's standing on a karmelis and he's adjacent to a rishus harabim, and the Megillah fell out of his hand and is now rolled over out into the rishus harabim from the karmelis. So the head of the Megillah, the V'ibimech Hashverish, is in the karmelis in his hands, and the Dover Shalom Chazayai is in the rishus harabim. Kagoin Gavoya Gimel V'Rachvay Daled. So now Rashi gave us another symptom of a karmelis. It is 3 tefachim high, and it's a mokum daled al daled, and that's where you were standing with your Megillah. For rishus harabim Iveris Lefanav, and adjacent to that there's a rishus harabim, and my Megillah fell over into the rishus harabim. The nofal kule miyadei, even if the whole Megillah fell out, and the whole Megillah fell into the rishus harabim, umahadrulei, and you brought it back from rishus harabim, skupa, back into the karmelis, lav chiv chatasika. That would anyway not be a deraisa, because we learned earlier that from a rishus hayachid to a rishus harabim is a deraisa, but from a karmelis to a rishus harabim, or from a karmelis to a rishus hayachid, it's only asur midrabanan. So there is no option here for him to have been over a deraisa at all, because we're dealing with two rishuyos, karmelis and rishus harabim, that never ever involve a deraisa. So therefore, lav chiv chatasika. Therefore, now it's even one step better than that, because hashta the rosha echad b'yodei vein kan akira. So I was wrong. I said there's no akira, since the beginning of the Megillah is still in his hand, so it was never necker from his hands. The afilu mishum shvus nami legozer. Normally they're gozer midrabanan. You can't take from a rishus harabim into a karmelis, but here since you're still holding on to the Megillah, we let you roll it back up so you could retrieve the whole Megillah. Again, because it would be a drabanan and a drabanan. The whole issue, worst case scenario, even if the whole thing fell into rishus harabim, midaraisa, you'd be allowed to take it back. Now you not even that didn't even happen. Only half the Megillah went flying, but you're still holding on to the beginning of the Megillah. So that you're allowed to roll it back up. Now, what if you kair b'reish agag? What if you were reading a sefer on top of a roof, and now we're discussing the roof is a rishus hayachid, and the adjacent territory is a rishus harabim, where there would be a deraisa if it fell off completely. You would not be allowed to bring it back midaraisa. So you're fiddling on the roof, and again the same thing happened. You're still holding on to the Mcgillvray. It rolls off and now it's hanging down from the roof. If it's not within 10 tefachim of land, because we know that the airspace above 10 tefachim in the rishus harabim is called a mokum tur. So if it's hanging off the roof and it's only hanging up above 10 tefachim, it's not long enough of a Megillah that it falls down to within 10 tefachim of the ground. So then half of it is in your rishus hayachid, half of it is in a mokum tur. There's nothing to talk about. Go less though, you can for sure roll it back up. But but if your Megillah is long and it's hanging down within a couple of inches of the ground, so now the end of the Megillah is actually in Rishus HaRabim, and that already is a potential daraisa, because we're talking about from Rishus HaYachid to Rishus HaRabim, then you're not allowed to roll it up on Shabbos. But now you have an exposed ksav, because we're assuming the ksav faces up, because that's how you would read it. And now you're going to have exposed ksav all Shabbos long, because you have to wait until Shabbos is over. So what you should do is hoifchei al ksav. Turn it over, so at least the ksav isn't exposed, the ksav is facing down, and the blind cloth is what's facing up. Let's see Rashi. He's holding on to the Vayhibi Mechashverish. So as long as the other end never made it into Rishus HaRabim, it's only no Makam Tur, you're allowed to just roll it back up. But he gear Liyud, if it reached down to within 10 Tvachim of the ground, so now the other end is actually in a Rishus HaRabim, also L'Goyloi. There they did not allow you to roll it back up. The Gozer Abonim Mishum Shvus. Their Gozer out to Shvus. Since if you let go of it, it would have been a deraisa to retrieve. Now, the Rabbanon were not allowing you to retrieve it. Since the string that attaches it is still in his hand, meaning he's not totally let go from it, it's not nekar, they were gozer, even though you're holding on to one end, they were gozer just in case you weren't holding on to one end, and they're not allowing you to pull it back up. The Ike Chiyuv Deraisa, because there's a potential Chiyuv Deraisa if you weren't still holding on to it. So the Gemara asked the kasha on this case. Amai hoifchei al ksav, why should you turn it over on the ksav? Why shouldn't they just roll it back up? Haloi noch. There was never a hanacha. It was never on the floor in Rishus HaRabim. It was within 10 tfachim of the floor, but it wasn't actually on the floor. So if it never landed, if there was never a hanacha, so you don't even have a potential deraisa. Zot Rashi, hoifchei al ksav, ksove l'tzad ha'koisel. You can allow the ksav to face the koisel. V'acholak on the unwritten portion, klapei Rishus HaRabim should be facing Rishus HaRabim. Shlei muto kol kach bebezoyin, so it shouldn't be so much bebezoyin. It didn't land, it's dangling over the Rishus HaRabim, but it never landed in the Rishus HaRabim. So why in the world should it be usher to roll it back up? Rav said, I'll explain to you why. Because you're envisioning a roof which hangs past the wall, and then you have your Megillah dangling in midair down over the Rishus HaRabim. But that's not what the case is. The case is, you weren't standing on a wall or on a roof, you were standing on the pyramid. So when the Megillah rolls down, it rolls down the pyramid, but it's actually lying on something, it's resting on something that's hard. So we're speaking about a slanted wall. So you might think if it's a slanted wall and it's still on the wall, then we determine Rishus HaYachid, because pashtus, the wall, is Rishus HaYachid. So Toshis tells us no, it has to be where the bottom portion of the wall is considered Rishus HaRabim. People use that part of the wall. People in the Rishus HaRabim use that wall. So you see from here that if something is lying upon an incline, that if I would let go, it would roll down completely. It's on the incline. It's still considered like it was noch. No. So therefore, in our case, we were talking about rain that was on the wall. The fact that it was on an inclined wall, rolling down that inclined wall, that's considered noch. Just like for the Megillah. The Gemara learned, Rava learned, that the fact that it's on an inclined wall is enough to say that it's noch. So too in our case, where you have water on an inclined wall, let's say that is considered noch.
But the Megillah didn't reach the bottom of where it's in Rishus HaRabim.
Yes, no, it's on a wall that a portion of the wall is in Rishus HaRabim.
Where's the Megillah?
The bottom part of the Megillah is in that Rishus HaRabim portion.
The bottom Megillah. So I thought it stops and we're going after since it's on. So doesn't matter then where he takes the water he's taking it from the Rishus HaRabim part, obviously on the bottom.
Well, I don't know if we're talking about the same wall. The wall of the Megillah doesn't mean it was raining that day too, and he also took water. It's a whole different case. It's a whole different case where you had a wall that was in Rishus HaRabim, or you had a wall that was in Rishus HaYachid completely. In the case of the water could have been completely in Rishus HaYachid. I took the water from that place and I brought it to Rishus HaRabim. So we're always trying to prove from here that something that's sitting on an incline is considered parked, even though naturally it might roll off. It's not going to stay contained within that incline. So it's like pyramid shape. The noch leil oisa shipua, we consider it noch on that inclined surface. For the Gemara, there's a huge difference. I understand by a Megillah why, if it's sitting on an incline, it's considered landed. Amor the Amarava besefer, the Avadinayach, because it's going to stop there. However, it's possible that you can have a sefer on an incline and it doesn't fall off. If you put something on a stender, even if there's no piece of wood at the bottom, if it broke off, sometimes just the friction, the surface friction, will maintain and the sefer will stay on an inclined surface. But water will never stay put on an inclined surface. It's going to roll off. So how could you compare this to Rava? Sure, by Rava I understand how an inclined surface is considered a base from which we can make an akira. But for water, an inclined surface, the water is going to run right off. He took the water from a puddle. And when it's in the puddle, it's noch. If it's in the puddle, guma, shita. So that I need Rabbi Yossi Simon. Who's the Baal member of Rabbi Yossi? I need Rabbi Yossi to tell me that if I take water from a puddle and I take it out and I made an akira because the water was stationary on the water, of course it's on the ground. How could you say that's a chiddush? So tomorrow, no, it's not a chiddush. Because I didn't wipe the puddle clean and take the water that was at the bottom of the puddle. I just skimmed off from the surface. Let's say my puddle is 3 inches deep, and I only wiped off the top half-inch layer of the water. That top half-inch layer of water was not sitting at the floor of the puddle. That was just suspended and floating over the other water. You might think that water sitting on top of other water is not considered munach, and therefore you might think that there should not be a chiyuv d'oraisa. Kamashman, that is precisely what the chiddush of Rabbi Yossi is. That if you have a deep bucket of water and you just take the top surface of the water off, that water was considered noch, and therefore when you made an akira on that water and you moved it over to Rishus Rabbim and you made hanacha, or vice versa, that would be an issur d'oraisa. That's the whole chiddush. The chiddush is that water floating on other water is considered noch. Zok Rashi, why would you think otherwise? So Rashi ma'od tema lav hainu hanachosim. That's not called parked. To have akira, that if you take water out of the top of a puddle, that's considered an akira. The water is not stationary. The water is floating around on top of the higher layer, on top of the lower layer of water. Kamashman the hainu hanachosim, the akira. That's called the eagle has landed. Water sitting in a cup on top of another layer of water, that's considered parked. Since that's considered parked, if you took water from there in that fashion, it would be considered an akira b'deraisa. Where's the Rava Tamei? And Rava is following his reasoning when he said that water on top of water is considered nach. However, egos al gabe mayim lo have hanachosi. What if I have a walnut that's floating in a bucket of water, and I took that walnut out of Rishus Yachid into Rishus Rabbim? There we don't say that was munach. We say that the walnut was suspended already, and therefore we don't say that you made it akira. So if you had a walnut that was sitting in a bucket of water, floating, and you took the walnut out of the bucket of water in Rishus Yachid and moved into Rishus Rabbim, you would not be chayiv, because the walnut was never stationary in a place. Rava had a shayla. So we have two extremes. Water agabe water, we say it's one volume of water. We don't split the layers of water. The entire water is considered to have being noch in the keli. But if you have a walnut in water in a keli, we don't say that it's like the walnut is at the floor of the keli. There we say the walnut is still suspended in the water and it's not in the kura. So what if you have a walnut in a keli, the keli tzof al gabe mayim, and the keli is floating. So I have a walnut in a bowl, and the bowl is sitting on top of the water, floating in the water. So do I consider that walnut is placed? Do you only look at the immediate vicinity of the egois, and in fact it is resting? Or maybe maybe you look at the big picture, the night. The kli that the walnut is in is not sitting on solid ground, it's floating around. So that was the shayla. Now the shaila is the Tosfos explains the whole shaila is this considered resting kederech shematzniin chafetzim b'nei adam? That's what Tosfos explains the shaila. Otherwise, it's very technical. So really, what we're looking for is what's called a hanacha. What is the normal way of people to put things away? Is this considered a normal way of how things are put away? And then we will consider it noch, or is this not considered the normal way of how things are put away? The Gemara blives with the shaila. Now, what about shemen shetzaf al gabi yayin? What if we know oil rises to the top? So if you have oil, a layer of oil that's sitting on top of water, a lot of people on Hanukkah, they fill up the bottom of the glass with water, and then they put oil on top of it. So what happens if you scoop that oil up? Is it considered like that oil was noch? Water on water, we already said it's considered noch. That was the chiddush of Rava. That's the chiddush of Gרשון. How about oil on water? Is that considered noch? So if Rashi shemen shetzaf al gabi yayin, for alkar shemen, and you uprooted the oil, meaning you took the oil, and you carried it out to Rishus Harabim. V'odin al gabi mayim li'inyan Shabbos, and huadin if it was on top of water. Oh, so I made a mistake. I didn't even read the words. The words say that the oil was on top of a layer of wine. L'gabi the halach of Shabbos, it doesn't make a difference if the bottom layer was wine or if the bottom layer was water. But it will be negated in a minute, the fact that it was wine at the bottom, because we're talking about tumas oichlin. L'gabi something else, and that'll be totally zebazeh. But first, let's see what Rashi's case is. So who l'gabi mayim in Shabbos avlin truma l'sod did not the giant.
Just a question: how's he taking the oil out? What is he carrying it in a straw?
It can be straw in his hand. The
kli itself is.
How does he do with
carrying the oil?
How does he do with that akira of the kli? No, so
right,
it could be
right.
someone put a keli into his hand, so he didn't make an akira on the keli either.
Then he went,
took some oil, and if that oil is not considered noch, so he never made the akira, and then he just walked out with it. Okay, now we're going to see an interesting shaila. If there's a cup of water and you're tummy and you touch the water, you're matame the whole water, right? We don't say you're only matame the first layer, the first inch. You're matame everything. So the Gemara wants to know if I have a top layer of oil and then I have a lower layer of wine, and the tummy touched the oil on top, is it considered like he touched the wine? Did he touch everything and now everything takes on the same level of tumah? Or maybe no, he touched the oil, he didn't touch the wine. And that shaila is also going to determine what the halach of Shabbos is. If you say it's all one big medium, it's one big suspension, then the same way, if you touch it, the whole thing is tummy, so too it's considered noch. It's all in the keli, and if you took some out, you made an akira. But if you hold that when I touch the oil, I'm only touching the oil, I'm not touching the wine, then legabe Shabbos as well, the oil is not considered that it's sitting noch in the keli, rather it's just floating on top of the wine. So Zot Gemara, shemen shetzaf al gabi yayin, machlokes Rabbi Yochanan v'nuri v'Rabbanan. It's actually a machlokes between Rabbi Yochanan v'nuri and the Rabbanan if it's going to be tamei. Because the machlokes v'gabi tumah, we're just saying that same reasoning will apply to Shabbos as well. Tetnan, we looked in the Mishnah, shemen shetzaf al gabi yayin. You had oil that was floating on top of wine. V'nogat full yayin b'shemen. Now a full yayin, we know we learned in brachas, the halacha is anytime a mashkin becomes tamei, it always reverts back to being a rishon. Right? That's what we learned. There's a gzeira d'Rabbanan that anytime a mashkin becomes tamei, it reverts back to being a rishon. So if you think about it, it shouldn't make a difference. Because if you touch the oil, even if you're not touching the wine, but the oil becomes a rishon. If the oil becomes a rishon, it's anyway going to make the wine underneath it into a sheni and passel it from truma. So that's why the Gemara is careful to say a regular tamei didn't touch it, rather a tful yoin touches it. A tful yoin who touches a mashkin does not make it go back to a rishon. If a tful yoin touches a mashkin, it passels it, meaning if it's truma, you know anything that any paris or mashkin that a tful yoin touches, you may no longer eat as truma. That truma may no longer be eaten. But if that truma went and touched something else, it wouldn't cause a problem. So here we have a case where only the top layer that he touched could be affected. So you have a tful yom that touched the oil that was suspended on top of a layer of wine. He will only pass on the shemen. Meaning we don't look at the shemen and yain as if it's one big suspension. Rather, all he did was touch the oil. a tful yoim could only go one level. He passes that oil, but the oil will not then transmit any tumah to the wine below it, and therefore the wine is completely kosher. But it also tells us that the oil is not noch. If you have oil on top and wine on the bottom, we look at it like it's all one big suspension, and the tful yoim that touches it touched it all, and therefore it will be tamei. You will not be allowed to use it. You will not be able to eat that truma. And if it was Shabbos, we say that even the top layer is considered noch. And if you took some of that oil out of the top layer, it would be considered an akira.
What about by mikvah, the same halacha of Yochanan ben Nuri says hakol
If there's a layer of oil on top,
no, it's oil. But if there's wine in the mikvah,
right?
Correct me if I'm wrong, but if there's wine in the mikvah,
these are the shiva.
The shiva.
Right.
So here, in other words, if it looks like two different components, I think that's pshat.
There they actually blend.
They do blend.
Yeah, wine and water, or milk and water, they blend. So if there's wine in there, it would color the water.
And therefore
milk
become
would not
a
color the
single
water.
entity. Milk would or wouldn't?
Milk and wine automatically become a single entity with water. You see from your coffee.
Right.
The layers don't separate. It's only oil that's unique. The oil has a lower specific gravity. Am I right? Oil has a lower specific gravity than water, than wine, and that's why
The
oil.
relevant point here is that it doesn't mix with water, which is not connected to the fact that it has a lower specific gravity.
Really? So why does oil go to the top?
Oil goes to the top because it stays separate. Once it's separate, gravity tells it where to go.
So what makes it go to the top is the fact that it has a lower specific gravity, but that wouldn't stop it from blending.
In theory, you can have a oily liquid which will mix with oil, but on its own will go underwater, not over.
If you have an oily liquid that was mixed with oil,
That will not mix with water,
it would,
and would mix with oil,
right?
and will go underwater.
Because that's if it has a higher specific gravity.
I'm saying oil is not.
But the fact that it doesn't mix is not related to its specific gravity. It's related to a different property.
Alcohol has a lower specific gravity than water.
Right?
Mixes with water freely.
Because it has water in. Oh, that's it's alcohol. So
Pure alcohol. Pure alcohol. It's polar versus not polar.
So it has to do with its molecular structure and how it sticks together. So it's like a stronger surface tension. Kind of in that mood, it's embarrassing. Keep my mouth shut. Keep my mouth shut. Okay. Amar Rab Avin, Amar Rab Eloi, Amar Yochanan. Hayatan Oichlin Amachlin. So here, Oichlin Amachlin. Here you have a person who has in his hands a hot potato kugel and a cholent, and he's going to take it from. He wanted to take it. He was in the kitchen, and he took out a big tray of kugel, and on top of the kugel we put the pot of cholent all together, and he wants to carry it from his kitchen to his dining room. And then what happens is, after he picks it up with the intent of bringing it from the kitchen to the dining room, which are both of Rishus HaYachid, which would involve no problems with Shabbos, someone says, "Hey, Yankel, we need cholent and kugel in the shul because they ran out of burnt. Maybe you want to just go straight to the shul with what you have." So that's the shaila over here. Which means when he made the akira was not al das to go out into Rishus HaRabim. It was to do a hanacha in the same Rishus HaYachid. And then the circumstance changed. And the question is that the original akira that he did, will that count towards the malacha of going Rishos Lashos? So Amar Bavin Amar B'nai Rabbi Yochanan, Hayatoin Oichel Numashkin. He already had in his hands Oichel Numashkin. V'nichnas v'yoytzei kol hayom kuloi. And he went out to Rishus HaRabim, and he came back into Rishus HaYachid, and back into Rishus HaRabim without ever unloading. Ein chayav ad sheyamod. He will not be chayav, because his original akira was not an akira with the intent to take it into Rishus HaRabim. So therefore, he can go in and out all day. As long as he stops in the Rishus HaYachid, there's no problem. He won't be chayiv until he stops in the Rishus HaYachid, and then makes a new akira from the Rishus HaYachid with the intent of going to Rishus HaRabim, and then if he made an akira from Rishus HaYachid with the intent of going to Rishus HaRabim, and then he went to Rishus HaRabim and made an hanacha, only then will he be chayiv. But the original akira, which did not have that intent, would not be mechayiv. So basically, what you need to do is if the food for the kiddush and shul is burnt, and you need someone to bring it, you have to stand by everyone's window waiting for them to pick up the cholent with the intent of taking it to somewhere else in Rishus HaYachid. You have to catch him in the act, and then you can get him to come to shul. And then you're only over at Rabban. And could be as kiddush leichviru. I don't know. That already don't try it home. But that's what the Grechan said. He already made that Akira, but that Akira was not with the intent to go to Rosh Hashanah. Therefore, he won't be chayiv till he stops the original Akira and he makes a new Akira with the intent of making a Yitzah. Only then will there be a chayiv. That's the halacha. Zot Rashi, and then the and then he makes a new Akira with the specific intent of making a Yitzah. The Hamidas Gufay, because even though he didn't put down the kugel, he's still holding it in his hand, his body just stopped, and this talks to what Chaim was saying. If his body just stopped, then Vadai Kehanochas Chayfet stomach, since he stopped moving, it's as if he put the kugel down. Hilchach, therefore, Ki Amad V'Akar, when he stood up again, or when he started moving again, and he decided to walk out for Akar Manas Lotzes, there he'll be Mechuyev. If he never stopped moving, Leka Akira, there would never be an Akira. El Akira Rishona, only the original Akira, which was never done with the intent to take it outside. And therefore it's pater because the Torah only answers a malacha where you did what your original intent was. So the original intent of your Akira was fulfilled. We learn from the Mishkan that every malacha has to be with intent, with conviction. That would be shogeg, but that's a malacha. So if you intended to do the malacha, but you just didn't know that it was Shabbos, that's called shogeg. But if you didn't even intend to do the malacha, when you made that Akira, you had no intention of making a haitzah, that wouldn't be a problem. Amar Abaye, when we say that the fellow has to stop, it depends why he stopped. If he stopped just to readjust the package, that's not called stopping, and his original Akira is still there. We only say that he's considered stop if he stopped to rest. That's going to eliminate the original Akira, and if he starts walking again, that's a new Akira.
He put it down or he didn't put it down?
He doesn't have to put it down. He could still be holding it, but he has to stop to rest. He can't just stop to adjust the package, because that's not called being mavatal, the original
intent. If he
intent.
stops to rest and he doesn't put it down, it's still considered
a new Akira. Once he starts moving again, that's right. That's considered an Amida, and therefore once he starts moving again, it's an Akira. If he just stopped to adjust his package, because that's still part of the original thing that he's doing. He's moving things around. How do I know that? Because Mar said an interesting halacha. What happens if you wanted to move something dalar from Rosh Hashanah? If you make an Akira in Rosh Hashanah, you go 4 amas, and then you make an anocha, that's an Isser D'Oraisa. You're not allowed to move something 4 amas from Rosh Hashanah. Well, what would happen was if you lifted something up, and you walked 2 amas, and you stopped to rest, then if you continue on your journey to the next 2 amas, you'll be potter. You know why? Because you didn't have 4 consecutive amas of traveling. You stopped your malacha in the middle, because you stopped to rest. But Lakates,
do that?
I'm sorry?
Can you continuously do that?
Sure. If you take it pachas midal amas, then you're only over at the Rabbanon, you're not over the Reisa. So you can't do it l'chatchila, but at least you won't be chayiv misa because of it. But amad lofish potter, because you were mafsik, you're carrying. But the cause of it, if you only stop to adjust the package, that's not called an interruption, because it's normal in the course of traveling that you're going to adjust the load. Then you'll be chayiv. Now, what about the opposite? Once you finished traveling dalaramis, amad lavish, if you stop at that point to rest chayiv, because that's a proper hanacha, I'm ending my carry. But lakatev, if when I stopped after the 4 amas, I only stopped to adjust my package, potter, I'll be potter, because I have not yet made a proper hanacha. My kamashmalon, what is the chiddush? The whole chiddush of the halacha of Rabbi Yochanan. What did Rabbi Yochanan say? Hayitan oichlu nemashkin v'nichnas v'yotze kol yom kula in chayvet shiyamoid. The chiddush of Rabbi Yochanan is to tell you is that when I originally loaded up the cholt and kugel to my hand, my intention was not to go to Rosh Hashanah. My intention was to remain in the Rosh Hashanah. Since that was my original intention, Rabbi Yochanan is telling us, I'm not chayiv al tzemoichim rishus l'shus. Frek the Gemara, that's the chiddush of Rabbi Yochanan. Ha'amar Rabbi Yochanan chad zimna. Rabbi Yochanan already told us this halacha, that the intent that you have when you're doing the Akiva, that determines whether or not this will be a malacha. What if you're moving packages around, you're moving chairs around in your house on Shabbos? You're picking it up from one side of the room and you're moving it to the other end of the room. There's no malach involved in that. That's perfectly mutter. But after you had the chair in your hand, you changed your mind. You know what? I'm in the mood of sitting outside on the street. And you took those chairs and you walked out to the street. Potter, you'll be potter. You know why? When you first lifted up the chair inside your house, your intention was not to take it outside. Your intention was just to move it around inside. And therefore you're going to be potter. So the problem is, Rabbi Yochanan, why did he need to tell us the same halacha twice? He told us a simple halacha. When you made the akira, your intention was to stay in Rishus HaYachid, and after you had it in your hand, only then you decided to move to Rishus HaRabim, that's not considered a proper akira for the purposes of being mechuyev of Mahitzah. So he said it once. How many times does he have to say it? So tomorrow you're right, he only has to say it once. But two different people heard this from Rabbi Yochanan, and each of them expressed it in a different way. Mar Amar La B'Hailishna, Umar Amar La B'Hailishna. Each of the two people who heard it expressed it in a different way. But Rabbi Yochanan only said it once. Tanarabban, Hamoitzi Mechanus Leflatya. If you took something from a chanus, from a store, which is legally a Rishus HaYachid, Leflatya, which is a big open plaza, a big highway, then you're going to Rishus HaRabim, but you didn't go directly from the chanus. You didn't go directly from the Rishus HaYachid, Leflatya, into the Rishus HaRabim. Rather, derech stav. You went through an area that's not Rishus HaYachid, nor Rishus HaRabim. Such as, in those days, the way it worked was, the stores were Rishus HaYachid, then they had the big road, but between the store and the road there was an area where there were benches to sit down. What comes to my mind is like by Ocean Parkway. You have the main road, and then you have that little area where the muggings happen, the boulevard there, right? And then imagine that the road was Rishus HaYachid. So you didn't go directly from Rishus HaRabim to Rishus HaYachid, or from Rishus HaYachid to Rishus HaRabim. You made a detour along the way. Chayiv. Uvin Azay Poiter, and Ben Azay holds its potter. That's more Bishlam Ben Azay. I understand why Ben Azai holds its potter. You know why? Because he holds every step you take is a new akira. So you couldn't have taken one big step from the Rishus HaYachid to take the Rishus HaRabim. You took a step where you crossed the threshold between the chanus and the stove. You walked a little further.
Stove is a carmelist, no? Is there any
It's
difference?
like a carmelist.
Why did you just say carmelist? We already established.
Because carmelist is a halachic term. Stove is a place. Exactly.
I said it already.
You know, we're already we'll stop here. On Amar Aleph, we're going to look where the word carmelist comes from. The word comes from the word carmel. Carmel is a kernel that's not very, very hard, completely dried out, but it's not very, very soft. It's somewhere in the middle. So carmel represents something that's a little in the middle. So a carmelist is a property that's not somewhere in the middle.
Did we already discuss the carmelist and bring it to carmelist?
Said it in Rashi. We learned it in Rashi.
I'm sorry?
I think we covered.
We learned the halacha of a carmelist.
So why is this any different?
Because now we're talking about going from Rishus HaYachid to Rishus HaRabim through a carmelist. Is that the melacha? Is that the melacha that's usher? Or maybe the melacha of a tzar Rishus HaYachid is only directly from one to the other.
Carmelist is only the Rabbanan or Rishus HaRabim.
Yeah, carmelist is the Rabbanan. It's the Rabbanan usher to go to each one. But with the Raisa, there's no problem going from a carmelist to either one. So the question